Hey. Mic check 1 2. 10 9 8 7 6 5 4. Good. Okay. You want to hear it? Or you good? You want to hear it? Oh, okay. All right. Everybody good?
The only one not wet. What did you do?
I'm magic, man.
Understand. No one else is.
It's all about the hair. I came in just for you.
Get that. Y'all kept Greg away.
Everybody says I need to have a beer in my hand, so I'm just going to.
How's everybody doing this morning? Good. It's good to see you all. I'm going. Rick, whose marker are we on? We on my own? Whose marker are we on? Let's go when we're ready. Everybody, everybody's ready?
We're ready.
It's great. Look, well, there's some great news first. First, I want to acknowledge, recognize, and celebrate Parker High School, the Thundering Herds, for winning the 6A champs in football. It is a well-deserved title. They've had an amazing run under the leadership of Coach Frank Warren, along with his athletic and coaching staff, those student athletes. What a tremendous job they've done. Parker High School has not gone to state championship since before I was born. I think that was 1980. And to see what they've done and accomplished in 2024 up against teams out of state, teams in the metro area, serious competition. And so kudos to the Thundering Herds, Parker alumni, for what they have accomplished. What a big deal. And then we look for more future ways to continue to honor the champs and celebrate them in this moment. I also want to take the time to share that we're excited about the Birmingham Bowl. As you all know, it's SEC versus ACC here in our city at Protective Stadium, December 27. It will be Vanderbilt against Georgia Tech. The coaches will be in town at some point to talk about the game. The city of Birmingham, we look forward to hosting this game. We think this is the type of game, ACC versus SEC matchup, that attracts a lot of supporters, alums, and fans of both institutions to our city 2 days after Christmas. So we look forward to not just the economic impact, but just a great game to watch here in our city. Then something that's important to you, something that's important to me, something that's important to our residents, definitely needs your help, press, in getting this out. As you know, the council passed a $16 million related to retention and recruiting of officers. As you all know, our new recruiting class started November 19th. But I also want to tell you some updated information related to the next class in preparation for the next class. I want to remind everyone that the physical fitness screening for Birmingham police hopefuls, that is, people who want to be a part of our police department, will be this Saturday, December 14th at 8 a.m. The location is the Birmingham Police Academy. We want to encourage people who have any interest in law enforcement, who have any interest in protecting their community, serving their community, being out in front, the face of their community, to help residents and serve residents, to come this Saturday, as well as be sure to bring your ID. I think it's important. You are applying for a job, so show up on time, as well as dress in clothing that fits for what this is, which is physical activity. The screening includes, but is not limited to, tasks such as pushing a car 15 feet, walking on a balance beam for 5 yards, time push-ups and sit-ups, which I need to get tight myself, as well as running 1.5 miles in 15 minutes and 28 seconds to be exact. There will be additional physical fitness screenings as well on January 11th, as well as January 25th. Again, we'll have 2 more screenings, physical screenings, after this date, this Saturday of January 11th and January 25th. But I think it's important that you all know, again, that there's a current class, and the next class will be March of 2025. And so this is the first step in qualifying for becoming a police officer. The current class has 29 new recruits who will complete their academy. They also get a $1,000 sign-on bonus. That sign-on bonus will be for this March class as well. So again, we want to encourage those who have any interest to please call 205-254. Let's see what my remaining numbers are. 1712. Again, that's 254-1712 for those who have any interest in becoming a Birmingham police officer. And with that, we're going to have this remaining form open for any questions you may have. Only topics you want to talk about that I may have an answer to. Who's first? Nobody.
You all just announced $108,000 for gun safety locks. You want to talk about that a little bit and why that's important?
Yeah. I want to say it was last week. We all got the report of a shooting on the eastern side of town in an apartment complex. First thing that came on my screen was the age of the child, and I immediately panicked. And then we got deeper into what happened, looking under the hood of the how, the what, etc. And it's public knowledge. This is not new. We found out that the discharge of that firearm actually came from in the house and is believed to be accidental. I don't care if it's an adult, but I definitely do. Let me say this right. I don't care if it's an adult or a child, but it bothers me more when there's a child that is hurt by gun violence. And gun violence, turns out, comes in all forms. That includes the discharging of a firearm by accident. Some may disagree with that, but the problem is that's happening at a rampant space too much in our country. Accidental shootings. They are preventable. One of the ways to prevent them is the safety lock. So I'm encouraged by Dr. Darrell O'Quinn by being creative, by being intentional, using his ARPA dollars to allocate in support from the White House, actually, in the Office of Violence Prevention, to address this singular issue of preventing decreasing accidental shootings, particularly as it relates to children in homes, apartments, cars, whatever it may be, getting access to or hold up to a gun, not knowing what it is, pulling the trigger, preventing them from hurting themselves. In that case, or in some unfortunate cases we've had in Birmingham over the last few years, a child being killed.
There have been some concerning videos that have been circulating on social media on 3rd Avenue North. Have you seen those, and do you have a response or a comment from the community on them?
I do. I actually spoke to the person who made the video because what I did was, one, sit down with the police department, have them view this video recording. Please tell me, our office, is there anything illegal in what we all saw in that video? And that video is of concern to me, it's of concern to the residents, it's of concern to small business owners, it's of concern to any citizen that would see it. And when we peel it back, what we got in that street that's we know is illegal is jaywalking. That sucks. Let me define that word, because I don't want you to run with that sucks. That's not what I mean. It's unfortunate that that's what's the part that's illegal. State of Alabama now says you don't have to have a pistol permit to walk around with any form of a firearm, if you would. So then I asked the question, what about some form of any form of public ordinance that they violated? And it turns out that the people in the streets were not necessarily want to be a witness to anything, because it was two groups who at some point had a physical fight with each other, were separated in an indoor facility where there were no guns. Separated, business make them go about their ways, exit out of separate doors. People go to their vehicles and retrieve guns. Did they commit a crime? That is the ultimate question. Is it menacing? Is it disorderly conduct? Well, it turns out disorderly conduct, there is something that you can say that they cause public alarm. But in order to satisfy that in front of a judge, you need a witness. We couldn't get anyone to say, I witnessed this or it caused public alarm. We got a video showing people in the streets, in the middle of the street with guns. Being in the middle of the street with guns in the state of Alabama, the activity in isolation is not illegal. That's extremely unfortunate based on you and I know after the fact there's alarm. But we need not only alarm in the immediate between anybody that would be physically in that street, but be willing to tell us that and be willing to tell that in front of a judge so that we can charge people at the most with a misdemeanor of disorderly conduct. That tells me we got a lot of work to do. There's an immediate issue here. People have to be safe. People need to feel safe. And I don't want to belittle that, and I don't want to ignore that. We need to not only acknowledge that and figure it out. There's been continued conversations with small business owners in various business districts of how to supplant, as well as, what word am I looking for? On top of our beat officers, have officers that you can pay for their service to be stationed in a particular location. I talk to other mayors in other cities, they do it. A lot of other business districts do it. An off-duty officer in uniform, on foot, and or in their vehicle. This is done currently on 2nd Avenue by Foot Patrol. It's done in other business districts. We also encourage small business owners who've had issues in the past to make sure they're in compliance with our ordinances that say they have to have security inside of their building. But I think it's a stretch when we try to make it that business owner's responsibility when it becomes on the street. That being the case, I think it's important for our police to respond and react in the immediate and an appropriate time manner, as well as if they see anyone brandishing a gun in a menacing way, to address that issue right then and there.
It's been a little over a month since Councilman Moore was arrested for DUI in a city vehicle. Is there any investigation by the city or planned action regarding that arrest?
Well, I heard your question. I'm going to probably encourage you to talk to the Birmingham City Council for any type of reaction you want to receive as it relates to any of your questions. Who's next?
Sir, on October 10th, we stood in this room and you announced that you were forming a new commission to fight homicides. We're coming up on the 60-day mark, which is when they were supposed to provide a report. Have they provided that report to you guys, and what kind of work have they done?
So I remember saying we wanted to form a crime commission to address public safety and gun violence. And I'm proud of the work they're doing. I look forward to actually receiving their report. Their report at some point will be in a position to not only be given to me, but to be made to the general public, to our neighborhood officers, to our residents, to our small business owners, as well as to the public, the press, what their findings, their recommendations, and how we move forward. When I get it, I promise you and your colleagues will be the first to know. Who's next?
Can you talk about the year-end operation that Birmingham Police are doing this year? It's a partnership with Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Have you heard any progress reports on how they've done early on so far?
Yeah, I think they're doing a great job. I want to give an acknowledgement to our interim chief, Michael Pickett, as well as always a huge thank you to Sheriff Petway. The truth is that public-public partnership between law enforcement, our sheriff's office here in Jefferson County, as well as BPD, enhancing this closeout year operation as it relates to going after crime, suppressing crime, being more active, as well as being more visible to deter certain crimes against property, whether it's theft, etc., or burglary, as well as crimes against persons. Just a little bit they've told me. It's going well so far, particularly on the visibility end. And I think that alone puts into perspective the whole idea of with more police on the streets, people are less likely to think they can get away with something.
During the same day that they announced that closeout operation, they were able to make another arrest in a mass shooting case that occurred, I believe, at Trendsetters Lounge. Can you provide your thoughts on just how critical this is to show the community that arrests are being made in these high-profile, high-impact cases?
It's a really great question. I will say this. There's not a day that doesn't go by where I don't think about the victims of crime in our city. Victims of gun violence who were shot and unfortunately killed, as well as those victims who survive and have to live with that trauma, as well as the families who lost a loved one and have to live with that trauma. It was high on my mind last a week and a half ago for Thanksgiving. It was definitely on my mind as we celebrated with families across the city for the holiday block party. Leading into Christmas, this is the time where those who've lost a loved one, you probably ache, hurt, and crying out the most. So it's extremely unfortunate. And I mention that because one of those victims I went to elementary school with. We've known each other since elementary school. She was a bartender, just working inside. And I would say to her family, I would say to the other victims' families, the other 3 victims who lost their life, I would say to the other 10 victims who survived, that this is a little piece of justice that is well-deserved. And what is the police responsibility, particularly as it relates to when a shooting occurs? It is to give every available resource, time, commitment, over and over again, to investigating and bringing some form of justice in the form of making an arrest. And in this case, this quadruple homicide, where there were a total of 14 people shot, I am extremely relieved that an arrest has been made. More so for the fact that I just remember when a detective called me as the person with notice to my family when an arrest was made when my brother was killed. You don't forget that call. And you remember that feeling, that there's a feeling before then worrying about who killed your loved one and how does this person just get to walk around the streets. So when you get that call that that person has been arrested, there is a brief moment, if you would, of some form of justice that brings just a little closure, not a lot, not all, but a little closure to that family. And I would say this, BPD in this year, 2024, with some of the high violence we've had, or higher than 23, they've had a clearance rate well above 50%. That's on par with the national average. That's good for those victims' families because that is what they deserve. They didn't deserve their loved one to be taken for them. But at a minimum, we need to be busting our butt, giving every available resource to those investigators to be in the best position to make arrests. But it turns out the best way they can do that also is community members coming forward with information because BPD were not there, and put the detectives in the best position to take a shooter, take a killer off the street. Anybody else?
On a lighter note.
Lighter note.
Yeah, on a lighter note, 16th Street Baptist Church received $2.5 million, to preserve that historic landmark. Talk about why it's important for the city and what's your reaction to that.
So, listen, Pastor Price, who was the pastor of 16th Street Baptist Church, and Ted Debro, who leads so many of the historic efforts to remind us to remember. I'll put it in context. The current chief of police for the city of San Francisco is a Birmingham resident. He's born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama, attended West End High School. At some point in his life, he decided to make policing a career choice. And it led him ultimately out of his home city to eventually become the chief of police of a large city in our country. At some point, probably about 2-3 weeks ago, he brought an entire delegation down and included two groups. Officers who had never been to Birmingham, as well as their district attorney's office. Their DA came down with a lot of their assistant DAs. In this conversation of justice, in this conversation of restorative justice, in this conversation of hope, in this conversation of remembering what happened in this city affected America, that form of domestic terrorism on a Sunday morning that took the lives of 4 little girls and injured a 5th little girl, we can never forget. And I think one of the best ways we can honor that is by making sure this historic landmark has the resources it needs, so we can continue to tell that story not only to the nation but to the world, not to just that chief and officers from that city and DA and assistant DAs from that city, but from all around the world. Lighter note. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everybody. We had a committee meeting yesterday, $200K for that's coming from the city also. Okay. It's going to go to that same project. It'll go on before council next week. Okay. So that'd be another $200,000.
Okay. Thank you.
So.